All right, we now go to the president of the chamber, Chad Hebert, who's going to start tonight's forum, and it's the parish president's forum, so he will now kick it in live.
Welcome to the Houma Terrebonne Chamber of Commerce's Terrebonne Parish President Forum. I'm Chad Hebert, owner of SafeWorks Safety Solutions and chair of the Chamber's Board of Directors and tonight's moderator. The purpose of this forum is to help our members and the community become better and informed voters so they can make the best decisions this coming election. The Chamber is dedicated and committed to promoting, educating, and advocating for business prosperity and regional economic growth. Our mission is uniting communities and building a stronger Terrebonne. The Chamber has taken every precaution to ensure that no one candidate was shown favoritism or endorsement. Questions were submitted by Chamber members and members of the general public, and all questions were secured by our CEO, Ms. Nicole Blanchard, and by Mr. Bill Erosh, who is our Executive Vice Chair of our Government Activities Division. No candidate, Chamber member, board member, general public, not even myself, had access to any of the questions prior to tonight's forum. I'd like to introduce our panelists tonight. First, Dr. Christine Strickland, Chancellor of Fletcher Technical Community College. Dr. Jay Clune, President of Nicholls State University. And Mr. Bill Erosh with Watkins, Walker, Erosh, and Hoycheck, attorneys at law. Thank you for volunteering your time tonight. Now I'd like to introduce our candidates. To the audience far left, Mr. David McCormick. To the audience's right, Mr. Gordon Dove. Candidates, I will give you each 2 minutes following this introduction to introduce yourself prior to the questions. Thank you for being here tonight. I'd like to go over the ground rules for the candidates in the forum. Each candidate, prior to being seated, pulled a number at random to see seating assignments and who would get the first question. Each candidate will get the same question and will be given 3 minutes to answer. The questions will be asked by the panelists. I will give each candidate a signal at your 30-second mark when you have 30 seconds left, indicating your 3 minutes are about up. When the 3 minutes are up, if you're still speaking, I will interject so we can move on to the next candidate's question or the next candidate to answer that same question. I'm asking each candidate, please respect their opponent and allow them to answer the question in the 3 minutes allotted. Should you wish to rebut or discuss something that was previously said, you are free to do so in your next question in the 3 minutes you're allotted. Any candidate not following the rules will be given 2 warnings. A third violation warning will result in the candidate being asked to leave the forum, and we'll proceed with just the remaining candidate. At the end of the forum, each candidate will have 3 minutes for closing comments. Candidates, do you have any questions? Ground rules for our viewing audience. No verbal outbursts or heckling or disrespecting any candidate. Due to time constraints, no questions can be taken to from the audience. They were submitted ahead of time prior to the deadline. We will not have any warnings for audience members who violate the ground rules. He or she will be asked to leave the forum. Mr. McCormick, would you take a couple of minutes and introduce yourself, please?
First of all, I'd like to thank the Houma Terrebonne Chamber of Commerce, Dr. Strickland, everyone here at Fletcher Technical Community College, and HTV for helping put this on tonight. My name is David McCormick. Some of y'all may not know me, but for those who do know me from the over 20 years plus that I've been coaching and teaching in the local area high schools, know that I'm hardworking, honest, and the type of leader that needs to be in this parish to bring it back together. I know times have been tough for our families here in Terrebonne Parish, and I'm running with the priority of bringing jobs and opportunities back to the hardworking men and women of this area. I'm tired of reading in the papers how our area keeps losing jobs, where other areas in the state keeps gaining them. This has to stop. We have lost thousands of jobs in the last couple of years. Those jobs represent opportunities for our children and our parents. The growth and diversification of our economy here in Terrebonne Parish is going to be my main priority while I'm in office. I can't do it myself. I need your help. I'm asking for your vote. So please, October 12th, when you go to the polls, vote for candidate number 94, David McCormick.
Mr. Gordon Dove?
Good evening. I'd like to first of all thank the Chamber, Dr. Christine Strickland and Dr. Jay Clune and Mr. Bill E. Roche and HTV for putting it on. And my name is Gordon Dove. I'm presently the parish president for the last 3 years and 7 months. I'm married to the former Mona LaBeouf. We have 7 children, 19 grandchildren. I'm a native of Terrebonne Parish. I was elected to the House of Representatives 2004 to 2015. I was chairman of Natural Resources for 8 years. During that time, we started in the Coastal Protection Restoration Authority, which is what today is doing a $50 billion master plan for the state of Louisiana, and of course, to Terrebonne Parish. We brought in over $1.2 billion in coastal restoration monies, over $380 million between CDBG, capital outlay, CPRA money, and to Terrebonne Parish for different projects. As far as my position here, I've taken over Terrebonne Parish at a time that the economy was falling. We cut the budget where it had to be cut. We balanced it. Terrebonne is fiscally strong. We balanced the budget from 2016 to 2019. And we've worked with Rouse's, bringing 450 jobs in, along with keeping industry alive and moving on off the HNC by dredging it with Terrebonne Parish money and working with the Corps. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dove. Our first question tonight will come from Dr. Strickland.
Good evening. Our first question will be first addressed to Mr. McCormick, followed by Mr. Dove. The question is, what do you think are the top 3 issues facing Terrebonne Parish, and how do you plan to address them?
The first issue, I think, is jobs and job training. The way I plan to address it is I plan to work a collaboration with the government, school systems, and our local area businesses. We have 2 paths at the high school level for the youth of Terrebonne Parish, the future workforce. One's Jump Start and one's College ACT. There's roughly around 600 kids that are in the Jump Start program. I would like to start job training and internships with local area businesses to let them see the opportunities that they have once they leave the high school level. Because what I see is a lot of lost youth. And when you have lost youth, they tend to do things, criminal things, and the crime rate's been going up. I want to show them the opportunities that they have in this parish. Instead of being excited at the opportunity of leaving, I want them to be excited at having an opportunity of working in this parish. And I don't want to limit that to just the high school kids. I want to open that up to that young man that's working in that dead-end job, making minimum wage, that he can do internships and do job shadowing and build that resume up. That way the companies have a hand in it too. Also for that single mom who's working 2 part-time jobs to make ends meet, to pay rent and feed her child. That's what I want to do. I want to start this job training program. This way the companies get to train the workforce that's coming up. It's a win for them. The people of Terrebonne Parish get the opportunities to build that resume, to have them get a better paying job. That's a win for them. And it's a win for Terrebonne Parish because now we're hiring local and keeping that money in our economy and making it stronger. That's one of the things I plan on doing. That's the main thing I think the problem in Terrebonne Parish is. You asked for 3. Another one would be our drainage systems and infrastructure. Our drainage systems, we got pumps. It's a good drainage system. The problem is it's not maintained. We can't be reactive. We have to be proactive when it comes to drainage. And I would like to set up a schedule to where it would be taken care of by quadrants. And our third issue would be our recreation. Changes have been made in the last year. I think recreation should be included for all parish citizens. All parish citizens, not just the youth. I would like to encourage more leagues for the young ones and more leagues for the elderly and for the adults. You know, that way it's going to promote a healthier way of lifestyle in this parish. You know, that's the three.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dove, the same question to you. Would you like me to repeat it?
No, ma'am, thank you. Well, being a legislator in 2007, myself and Reggie Dupre, to bring jobs, so he was a senator at the time, I was a state rep, and to bring jobs in the Terrebonne Parish, we funded the building we're in right now, the Fletcher Technical and Community College, and we actually funded that $24 million. Then we funded the building in the back with BP. Terrebonne Parish recently, about 2 years ago, we dedicated $150,000 and worked with Dr. Christine Strickland to bring monies to help her raise monies so they could build a careers building here, which is a match of $600,000 to $5 million that was actually funded about 12 years ago. That's just coming to fruition. So bringing jobs here is technical colleges, and then also this has become a community college. And as far as bringing jobs to Terrebonne Parish, like I said in my earlier statement, we put up $3 million with Terrebonne Parish and $500,000 with the port to dredge the Houma Navigation Canal in conjunction with the Corps of Engineers, which we were later able to get them through Steve Scalise and the other delegation, the federal delegation, to put up $9.4 million to bring deeper draft vessels in here for thousands of jobs and create thousands of jobs for people of Terrebonne Parish. Also drainage. We presently have 200 pumps. We have 90 pump stations. 100% of all pump stations are operational as of today. We have installed more pump stations ever in the history of Terrebonne Parish. 19 pump stations have either been installed since I took office or presently being installed. They do not have a maintenance problem. Every day we get a report on the pump stations and the amount of pumps. And as of today, 100% of the pumps are running as we get it every day. We now have a hydrologist that monitors the waters in Terrebonne Parish to make sure we know how Terrebonne's draining. And along with that, you know, the other needs of Terrebonne Parish is industry. Industry creates industry. Industry creates jobs within it. We have worked with the local people. We have worked with the local corporations to bring jobs here and push to bring more jobs into Terrebonne Parish with a spiraling economy. Thank you.
Dr. Clune, if you would address the next question to Mr. Dove.
Mr. Dove, you'll answer this question first. Especially with the downturn in the oil patch and increasing layoffs, what would be your primary strategies to attract new businesses to Houma?
Well, like I said earlier, you know, I worked with Donna Rouse. You know, of course, it was their decision to move to Terrebonne Parish. We rolled out the red carpet. We showed them that Terrebonne Parish is business friendly. And we've showed other companies that have moved into Terrebonne Parish. We've tried to diversify Terrebonne Parish every which way we can, but Terrebonne Parish is oil and gas and medical. And oil and gas I will protect the economy through oil and gas. And Terrebonne Parish has a strong oil and gas presence in Fouchon, Louisiana. We have numerous shipyards. That's why it's so vital on the Houma Navigation Canal to keep it dredged, not only for deep water drafts, but 60% of the intercoastal drains down the Houma Navigation Canal. The Houma Navigation Canal presently drains 6,000 cubic foot per second on an average. When we have backwater flooding or heavy rains, we move as much as 22,000 cubic foot per second through the Houma Navigation Canal to drain this parish. If you don't drain this parish, then businesses are going to leave. If you don't prove that Terrebonne Parish, like we just did, can take a 9-foot wall of water and stop it, and only have 2 homes flood in Terrebonne Parish, which 2 is too many, and about 8 homes in Lafourche Parish. Over in Pointe-a-Shire. In fact, it flooded from the Lafourche side, not the Terrebonne side. So, you know, we have to convince industry that this is a safe place to live. I've done it. They've been to my office. I do a lot of my own economic development. We have an economic development group we work with. But the economic development comes through the parish president. No matter what happened, we've got to bring industry here, and we got to try to keep our children and the people we have here. We have to lower insurance rates, flood insurance. We've been working with that with FEMA. We were able to get FEMA to recognize the Morganza levy system and the redundant levies as the calculating their slosh models, which governs how much insurance they're gonna charge. We've been very successful with that. As you know, we had a 9-foot wall of water came in here, and through the concerted effort of a lot of people, Terrebonne Parish did not flood. To keep people down the bayou, we're building 3 lock systems in the H&C, Terrebonne Bayou, in Petite Caillou. And the key to Terrebonne Parish is make sure people are happy to stay here, make sure businesses are satisfied to stay here.
McCormick, do you need me to repeat the question? Especially with the downturn in the oil patch and increasing layoffs, what would be your primary strategies to attract new businesses to Houma?
Well, when you're talking about the oil field, that's the backbone of Terrebonne Parish. We all know that and seafood. When that suffers, we feel it. We feel it hard. What I'm going to do is I want to strengthen and diversify the companies that we already have in Terrebonne Parish. I want to reiterate that. I want to strengthen and diversify the industries that we already have. We can't afford to lose any ones that we have already. And then I want to attract new industries from the future, for the future. Such as knowledge-based industries, that's the tech industries. With the hub that they're about to put at the air base, this is the perfect opportunity for us to get on the ground level and try to start that as a major economic development in this area too. Is that tech industry, that knowledge industry, that really we don't have a whole lot of right now, and the few that we have right now are kind of iffy because of the workforce training. It's hard for them to find people that they need for their companies, so I would diversify by trying to attract the industries of the future and by solidifying the industries that we already have in this area.
The third question will be directed first to Mr. McCormick. Mr. McCormick, what are your thoughts on regionalism, especially between Lafourche and Terrebonne, and what specific areas would you support regionalism for these 2 parishes that would be mutually beneficial?
Well, for this parish to prosper, this region has to prosper. I support regionalism, working with other parishes, not just Lafourche, but other parishes too. They're bringing in industries. If we're bringing in industries, our parishes are both going to prosper. It's going to benefit our people on both sides of the border of the parish. One of the things that I think would help benefit the region is, you want to attract big industry. You want to attract those big manufacturing companies. Well, you can't just do that right off the bat. You have to find those components and those parts that those big industries work on first. And you want to try to bring that into the area first, into the region, whether it be in Thibodaux or whether it be in Galliano Cutoff. You start attracting those businesses, then you can go for the higher level components, the tier 1s and the tier 2s, and then later on down the line, that would help for you to attract this area, to attract the bigger industries, which will create more jobs. So I think regionalism is a good thing. It attracts more jobs for everybody in the region.
Mr. Dove, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, sir. I've got it. Well, the regional between Terrebonne and Lafourche has been going on for quite some time as a legislature and as parish president. One of the big pushes that thanks to Tanner McGee and our delegation was $150 million for the elevated highway from Fouchon from Leeville to Golden Meadow. And Fouchon is so vital to our economy to work with Lafourche. Right now, in joint, we're building a levee called the Reach K and Reach L with a floodgate, Grand Bayou floodgate, which is funded from Pointe-aux-Champs to South Lafourche to combine our levee systems and create a two-parish system that when a hurricane comes in, we both shut our gates and we both bat our hatches and we survive. As far as the industry of Terrebonne within the industry, I've taken over the permitting from South Central Planning. We had so much of a savings, we went ahead and eliminated permit fees on all existing residential homes. You still have to get a permit because we want you to follow the Louisiana Building Code, but you don't have to pay for it. So we've already cut that for businesses. We're in the process of cutting culverts where you're not charged to put culverts in by the money we're saving on our building permit program. We've made one-stop shopping out of the government towers. You can go to government towers and get everything from recreation to pay your electric bills, to get recreation applications for our children. We moved the sportsplex along was stagnated for 2 years when I took office, so we can bring outside teams in and compete with our children in this field. We're building the soccer field right now. We're under construction with the concessions. We're going to build a road from the sportsplex out to Val High to alleviate the traffic, and that's one way to diversify Terrebonne is through sports, and we've been working on that for a few years. It had no funding. We actually funded it through our budget, and it's been very successful along with pump stations and levees and also all these lock systems. But it's so imperative we do work with Terrebonne Parish. I've always worked with them, with Terrebonne and Lafourche Parish. The Terrebonne Lafourche Parish is a hub, and we're joined together in Fouchon. Fouchon is so vital to this industry like the HNC is. Thank you.
Mr. Dove, this question will go to you first. How will you work with the parish council members during the next 4 years to develop a sense of collaboration and to model the deployment of appropriate strategies when disagreements occur?
Well, I've always worked with the councilmen members. You know, we mostly work 8 of us, 8 out of the 9. And we've had a good relationship. You can see through we have $70 million worth of construction going on in Terrebonne right now that that I can't move forward without a council. I've worked with that council. The council is vital. Every councilman has projects in their area. One district is important as the next district, and I made sure that the funding was spread out evenly. Of course, sometimes the bayous got some of the bigger monies because the waters from the bayous will reach to the east side and then the west side. So we've worked with councilmen. It's so important to work with councilmen. Just as when you're a state representative or state senator, you work with whatever governors up there. And we have accomplished a lot through members of the council, and we've saw Terrebonne really grow and prosper. Remember, we had to cut 23% when I took office. I had to cut $10 million out of the budget that I had for every year for 4 years. That's $40 million myself and this council cut out of the budget. And look at the construction. We got $70 million with another $30 million going into construction. We're going to have $100 million during bad times in construction. You know, we've used GOMESA bonds, we've got grants, we've used parish money, we've got some state money, and we put it together and we built what this parish needed for the drainage and the protection of the people of Terrebonne Parish. And I've had a successful relationship with the council, and I respect the council members, and they have worked hand in hand with me on the 7th floor and during the council meetings. We recently met with Bourgeois and Bennett. Terrebonne Parish is in strong fiscally shape. We have over $9 million in trust fund on the trust fund budget, which is as much as it has any year. We cut the by quoting insurances We went from 1 agent in Jefferson to 4 agents. We cut the unaccrued funded liability from $160 million to $80 million, saving $1 million a year for the next 20 years. It's a $20 million savings by using Medicare with a supplement, with a supplement for the retirees.
Thank you. Mr. McCormick, the same question for you. Would you like it repeated? How will you work with the parish council members during the next 4 years to develop a sense of collaboration and to model the deployment of appropriate strategies when disagreements occur?
Well, you said it, collaboration. I've been collaborating with different people. I'm going to use coaching as an example. My coaches, I'll go out and I get alphas. I don't want people to see things the same way I see things. I want people that see things differently. And I believe that our council is a group of individuals that see things differently. They all have different ideas, but every idea is for the betterment of the parish, even though it's different. So that's what I like. I like dealing with alphas. I don't want to surround myself with guys that see the same thing as me or girls. I want individuals that are leaders, and I want to work with those individuals that are leaders. As for collaborating on these disagreements, we're going to handle it like adults. We're going to talk person to person. If they don't see things the way I see things, that's okay. There's more than one way to skin a cat. I got no problems with give and take. As long as it's for the betterment of Terrebonne Parish, I'm good with that. Now, as for airing it out in public, I'm not about that. If there's a disagreement and we have something that happens at a meeting, we're going to talk about it in the back. We're not going to put it out on film.
Mr. McCormick, this question goes to you first. What would you do to cut costs over the next 4 years, and how would you prioritize those cuts?
Well, first of all, I'm going to have to evaluate each department and see what needs to be done. Look at the tax revenues coming in and the spending. I believe that the tax dollar is the most sacred dollar that the government can spend. And I believe that it should be best spent where the parish best benefits, the people in the area best benefit. So I would have to look at the budgets in the different departments and see what needs to be done or what can be done. That's pretty much what I got to say about that one.
Mr. Dove, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, thank you. Well, like I was just saying, you know, when I took office, there was one company out of Jefferson that were doing all the insurance. I split it into 4 agents. We saved $3 million the first year. And under the healthcare, we went to the Medicare with an enriched supplement that not only saving the parish $1 million a year, thanks to our healthcare provider, and also the seniors on it were paying 20% of $1,500, which is $300 a month. Now they're paying 20% of $500 on the supplement only, and they're only paying $100 a month. They're saving them $2,400. Of course, that $2,400 can be used in the parish. You know, that was one way we cut it. Another way we cut it is longevity of equipment. When I took office, the equipment that they were selling off on auctions and all had a lot more lifetime in it. I've run equipment all my life. So we got a program where equipment is analyzed and the head of the mechanics make the decision when the truck needs to go ahead and go to auction and buy a new piece of equipment, because we're talking $200,000 to $400,000 equipment. I don't want someone sitting in the desk saying it's time to change this truck. I want the guy working on it. But in the same instance, we don't want junk running around here, and we don't have junk. We've got good-looking trucks, low-maintenance trucks, and our vacuum trucks and our excavators are working every day. We've dug more ditches and cleaned more. Keep trying to train the people at Terrebonne Parish. Some hadn't been done it for years, and the savings is 23%. We cut all departments. We had to $10 million a year. So we did not and will not go back to the people of Terrebonne Parish for any type of taxes, fees, anything. I made that commitment back 4 years ago, and I'm making it now. We have saved a lot of money at Terrebonne Parish. We just recently saved $900,000 on a rake system that was sitting out in the weeds for 7 years. Our legal team got involved. We went back. We met with the manufacturers. We threatened to sue them. They came back. It took us 2 years to get them to come to the table because it was almost 5 years when we found it. And to this day, it's operating right now, saving this parish $900,000. We have a year's warranty with it. And, you know, we watch every nickel. I've hired Candace Malden, who's the CFO, who used to audit the parish for 7 years. Our relationship with Candace on the money has been wonderful. Thank you.
The next question will go to you first, Mr. Dove. The Terrebonne Economic Development Authority, or TEDA, has not secured their maximum potential funding since its reauthorization. With the state of our economic climate, what are your intentions for TEDA, and do you intend to fully support the future budget requests of TEDA in order for them to function as Terrebonne's Economic Development Authority?
Well, I fund TEDA to the extent of what Terrebonne Parish can afford. When I first took office, we used $3 million of economic development money to dredge the Houma Navigation Canal. I believe that was the biggest economic value to Terrebonne Parish, thousands of jobs. In the past, they would let the Houma Navigation Canal get to 11 feet. Deep water, deep draft vessels out in the Gulf now, the further they go to the south, the more deep water draft they need. And you've got to keep the Houma Navigation Canal dredged. So by using that monies that would normally have gone to some of that to economic development, we were able to bring thousands of jobs and new type of work, what's called brown water vessels. Right now, Terrebonne used to mostly do deep water oil field vessels. The shipyards that diversified are what they call brown water. That's the Mississippi River. That's the that's these different rivers. The Intercoastal Canal, and we'll bring them into Houma now, but you need 14, 15 foot of water. As far as funding them, I will fund them. If the money's come available, I meet with them and make sure they have whatever monies are available, but you just can't give them, like my departments. My departments, I cut 23%. They had to cut too. All departments were cut because of the downturn in the oil field. And all the other departments have survived, and they've survived. They do a good job. I work with them, but a lot of economic development comes through the parish president's office. When someone wants to open up a business, they come see me, and I give them a rundown. I actually have a whole slide presentation for them. So my office has become part of economic development, which it hasn't been in the past. So we play a large role in economic development, and they do a great job with the economic development that is presently, actually I put them, they're on the 7th floor with us. Thank you.
Mr. McCormick, same question to you. Would you like me to repeat it?
All right, TEDA, in my opinion, is underfunded. All right. I don't believe in micromanaging departments. That's why we have department heads. That's why we hire the right people for those departments, and we trust the decisions. Now, we do meet with those department heads, and we come up with same type of platforms that we would like to work for. TEDA's a small group. I think there's maybe 3 employees and a part-time worker. They do a great job with what they have. I would have to look at the budget and see where we could move monies around, because I do believe that TEDA could help in developing our economic, our stronger economic, our stronger economy here in Terrebonne Parish.
Gentlemen, this question will go to Mr. McCormick, but I will state that it is a lengthy question, so if you need any portion of it repeated, please feel free to ask. Between all of the recreation districts in Terrebonne Parish and the parish's own recreation department, there's about $10 million in collected property taxes each year. In the last 2 years, there have been increasing concerns about the duplication of expenditures, including salaries of multiple directors, multiple insurance costs, multiple facilities and grounds maintenance, etc. Considering the $10 million per year being collected, there are concerns that our recreation facilities are not comparable to neighboring parishes with the same size population. If elected parish president, what will you specifically do to avoid such duplication of expenditures?
Well, each individual rec district has their own millages. Some pay more, some pay less. I believe that who would best know what to do with their recreation dollar than each individual rec district. As for saving money with, like let's say I'm gonna use lights for example, I have noticed in the past that one district might need lighting fixed. They would get with a company, they would get a bid, and it would be a little bit higher than what it would be if they all got together and communicated and they all came up with their needs list, and they could be able to get a cheaper price, you know, by ordering those lights if they did it as one group, you know. So I believe that when ordering stuff like that, it's good to have them get together and discuss their needs and their common needs, and then they can look for bids with the companies like that. That way they will get a cheaper price. But I believe that each individual rec district knows how best to spend their recreation dollar.
Mr. Dove, the same question to you. Would you like it repeated?
No, ma'am, that's okay. Well, as you know, under the Home Rule Charter, each district, each of your rec districts collects their own millages. We really don't have anything to do with that, but what we've implemented is we've put more oversight over their spending. Recs 2, 3, and 11 have to get our approval on any money they spend, any projects they spend. So we've done a lot of recreation reform to oversee these two big districts. Jeff Touton was put into Rec 2-3. He's done a wonderful job. He's chairman. We work together. And if you go out to the Terrebonne Sportsplex, you'll see a lot of changes. As far as could you keep the same services like through one bookkeeping service? That's a good point. You could, but our job, what we do as Terrebonne Parish is we administer a Terrebonne Parish recreation program. To change that, we would have to go to the people and get them to vote if they wanted to consolidate or keep the rec districts like they are. But instead of doing that, we've completely replaced Rec 2-3, which had a lot of internal problems over there. It's got a new board. We need to give the new board a chance to see what they've got. If you, like I said, you go out there, you see a lot of changes. I've been going to the different recreation sites. All your recreation boards have really stepped up to the plate, but a lot of them was already up to the plate. You know, a lot of your recreation districts do a wonderful job. Let's not blame them because one or two of the rec boards had problems, because they've really been very, very careful with their monies and they spend it. But you're right, it's $10 million a year. If you add it up over 10 years, that's $100 million. And remember, we administer the program on our own millage. So is there things that we can improve on? Yes, without a doubt. I put together a recreation supervisory board, which has been working fabulous. We're in communication with them. We're watching their spending. We do have that oversight to watch their spending. That wasn't done in the past. Rec 2, 3, and 11 especially, they can't even build a basketball slab unless they run through us. They had some of them that some of them wasn't following Louisiana bid laws. They followed Louisiana bid laws. I've put them with my purchasing people, and they have gotten aware. They've been taught by our purchasing how to do it. And then I've hired Roddy LaRille, who's done a wonderful job from concussions to concussion trainings to badges for the safety of our children.
Mr. Dove, this question goes to you first. Considering the significant economic impact that a completed Bayou Country Sports Park could bring to Terrebonne, like out-of-town guests using our hotels, restaurants, and shops, what are your specific plans to complete the Bayou Country Sport Park?
Well, when the Bayou Country Sportsplex was started, it had no funding except through the hotel motel tax, and that was exhausted before I got into office. So right now, the way to fund it is you've got to go through capital outlay, and we've been able to bring budget monies into it, and that's what we're actually doing. All the soccer fields is through budget monies. Also, the baseball field on the Martin Luther King can be sold for about $2.6 million to help complete a lot of the construction back there. Like I said, we're already building the road to Valhalla. We have enough monies to complete the soccer fields. The concession stand is already funded, and it's state-of-the-art, good-looking concession stand. We run all the fire hydrants, water, sewage, electrical back there. All utilities have been run back there mechanically. And that, there's still some other areas we need to raise money, but right now, between working with us and Jeff Tutoy and the board of Rec 23, they besides the 2.6, they still have some money left to finish. They'll be able to finish up all the baseball fields, all 10 of them, and get them rolling and just about finish with the parking lots. We're installing lights as we speak along there. If you go over there, you'll see where we're installing 40 street lights to light the place up. So we know what we can do right now is just take it a little bit at a time, but we're moving as fast as humanly possible, and we're funding it. And Rec 23 is funding it. Like I said, the funds were exhausted before I got here, but there was really no set funds. This was designed to be built through capital outlay. In Baton Rouge, capital outlay is tough to get, but we do have $1.9 million that we believe we can move over in the next legislative session. Besides the 2.6, you need about $12 million to wrap it up to where we want to get where we're going. But we have enough money to finish the soccer, the baseball fields, and the roads and the lighting to get our citizens playing on there. But it's very vital in our economy to bring all these tournaments in. And so that's been my goal from day one since I got in. And we remember it was stagnated for 2 years. So we've been moving that along. Thank you.
Mr. McCormick, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, that's good. Aside from levees and drainage, this is the biggest project in Terrebonne Parish over the last couple of years. It still hasn't been completed. The sports park, like y'all said, is a great the sports park's a great economic engine for Terrebonne Parish. It's going to generate a lot of money for the economy. I believe that all options need to be looked at. Whether it be through grants or other funding, but it needs to be done. I mean, it's going to showcase Terrebonne Parish, and the rec districts. It's going to bring a light into this area for the youth sports programs, and it needs to be finished. It definitely needs to be finished, and everybody needs to come to the table and have a common ground and work to complete this project.
Mr. McCormick, as a political leader, you may be involved in recruiting new businesses and families to town. What would you point to or refer to as quality of life attractions in Terrebonne Parish? And what would you propose to create new quality of life attractions in Terrebonne Parish?
Well, quality of life attractions here in Terrebonne Parish, I mean, we got a lot. I mean, our bayous, regions with fishing, the Water Life Museum in downtown Houma, the African American Museum in downtown Houma. I mean, those are all things that we can use to highlight, our area, the diversity, the friendliness of the people. I mean, we were just ranked, I believe, #1, with our residents. So that would be what I would highlight, to try to attract more people here. Another thing would be, I would love to see our gyms and our recreation departments become the pulse of each different district again, of the communities. The Downtown Houma Development Association does a great job of promoting downtown Houma. You know, it's great to see all the people down there on Main Street, you know, celebrating, listening to music, enjoying each other's company, you know, the different cultures that we have here, the different, you know, diversities that we have here. You know, that would be something I would push to attract individuals into the area. To attract businesses, it would be the workforce training programs that I would install, you know, trying to promote the local workforce, you know, because it all comes back to jobs. You know, quality of life, it all comes back to jobs, and it all generates a better economy for Terrebonne Parish.
Mr. Dove, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, that's okay. I'm constantly getting businessmen coming in wanting to open up in Terrebonne Parish, so it's an easy sale for me. I mean, you know, of course, one of the first things we tout is we are completing the sportsplex, but also they've got fine subdivisions to move into. They've got fishing, hunting. You've got baseball fields. It's spread all over Terrebonne Parish. You have a great school system run by Mr. Philip Martin, does a great job. You know, some of these schools are the highest in the state. So we have a great education system that we sell it on in the workforce, you know, that they can come over here and get with Fletcher about working with Dr. Strickland on getting labor over here. But we have a long way to go because we have to finish that up, and quality of life is what these companies are going to come in here for. Remember, we're not going to get Chrysler in here with 3,000 people. We have to develop what businesses we have in here, make sure they're comfortable, and any other businesses that want to move in here, we want to bring them in here. And then the one thing I always show is I show our levy system. I know I keep going back to the levy system, but they have to feel protected because a lot of these universities, these NGOs are showing Terrebonne Parish flooding with 4 foot of water coming in. They don't acknowledge the Morgana to the Gulf when they're doing their slosh models. So that's something you have to sell people, that you are protected. When I got PHI down here and I've been working with Al Gazalat, the first thing he was worried about is, hey, is the heliport going to go underwater like it did for Ike and Rita? And we showed them they didn't. They brought in 13 helicopter ships, 5,000 cars a year. And you know, we showed them where we had the housing, apartments, numerous hotels, and we showed them what quality of life was available in Terrebonne Parish, and they moved down here. United States Coast Guard just moved 90 people in here about a year ago. We worked with them with their parking situation. Captain of the Port is now in Houma, Louisiana. It had been in Morgan City for the last 150 years, as long as Coast Guard's been around. And when we brought them in here, we worked with them. We showed them the restaurant. You know, we showed them they had plenty of restaurants, hotels, and different things to do in Terrebonne Parish, from the different bayous and our culture and way of life, and the Wildlife Museum and downtown Houma. So with that, we constantly are working with people to bring them into Terrebonne Parish. And quality of life is one of our sales tools.
Mr. Dove, for some years now, there have been complaints about the downtown area becoming stagnant. What are your specific plans to revitalize the downtown area?
Well, there's a program going that they're going to try. The Downtown Development Corporation does a lot of good, but as you know, so much of it's moved out to Martin Luther King, and we've constantly tried to revive downtown. One thing we did when I got elected is like leaves and keeping it clean downtown was one of the first priorities. That's cheap. We water blasted the courthouse. It was deplorable, and we've looked at remodeling some of the buildings. There's a corporation right now looking at purchasing some of the buildings and doing bringing some stores and all in there. I can't go into detail, but they are looking at it heavily right now. So we are trying to get people to come in and buy some of these old buildings and revitalize them. Downtowns are hard to revitalize, but this is what represents Terrebonne Parish. So when you go downtown, it's as clean and nice as could be. We are trying a different parking method. For 2 days, you're going to see a different type of parking rather than parallel parking. So we just try that just to give it a go. The State Department of Transportation is working with us. And so you're going to see a little change in there just to see how, if we can rearrange the parking downtown, because as you know, when you get out your car, you better watch out, or somebody's going to knock your car door off or hit you. So it can be critical if you're not careful. But we are working on it, and you've had some people going down there and remodel things down there, and really made some buildings really presentable. But we've got to get people down there, and we've got a big push going on right now.
Mr. McCormick, the same question for you.
Yeah. Well, what we need, because when you think of Main Street down any town in any state in Louisiana, or not, excuse me, in any town in Louisiana, you think of Main Street, you think of that beautiful old rustic look, people shopping, kids playing in the courtyard, and downtown Houma has that capability. I think we need to attract more attractions. Right now, like I said earlier, we have the Wildlife Museum. The Wildlife Museum there. If we can attract more attractions down to the downtown area to bring more families down there to do some more shopping, I think that's going to help improve that area.
Mr. McCormick, list 3 qualities or qualifications that set you apart from your opponent.
I know how to work with a lot of different types of people. I bring together a lot of people for one common goal. I've been doing that as a coach and an athletic director for the last over 30 years. As an athletic director, I oversaw over 26 different programs. The day-to-day operations, the budgeting, negotiations with companies with contracts, and other schools for game contracts and all of that. I go after the alphas, like I said earlier. I want the best that's out there. I want to bring it in, and we collaborate, So that's one of the things that I could bring to the table. I am able to not hold grudges, just because somebody sees things differently. I don't hold that against them. I welcome different visions. That's what sets me apart.
Mr. Dove?
Being president of Terrebonne Parish is unique from a lot of other parishes. You have to be able to pick up the phone, call Steve Scalise or Kennedy, Senator Kennedy, and go to Washington when you have needs. You have to know how to go to Baton Rouge. Even though you have a delegation, you need to know how Baton Rouge works. That's where the money's at. That's where the legislation's passed. One thing we've done when the legislature opened up and was looking for ways to cut, they were going to take part of the 100% ad valorem tax credits away from supply vessels in Fouchon and Terrebonne Parish, costing both parishes millions of dollars. And then if they're taxed, they could easily move to Mississippi. We went over there and we defeated that. It's still 100% ad valorem tax credits for our supply boat industry, which is the major hub where the supply boat vessels go, the oil companies go. So besides running the parish, and you have to have the business background to run a parish and to be able to run the people and run the equipment, but then turn around and know enough about barrier islands and drainage and cubic foot per second on pump stations. You realize we put up 19 pump stations in Terrebonne Parish in less than 3.5 years. And we stopped from doing a rainstorm of 250 calls down to 20 or 30 calls. And so you've got to know Baton Rouge, you've got to know Washington, you've got to know the delegation, who's up there. You got to be able to get up and go sit in Coastal Protection Restoration Authority meetings in Baton Rouge. Friday morning, the Corps of Engineers is coming down on the riverboat Mississippi, and you got to present your problems and what you're doing. We do that twice a year. I go put on a presentation with the Corps of Engineers about the needs of Terrebonne Parish. General Kaiser has now moved to Washington, who used to be over the Mississippi River Valley. Now we go up there and see him, have breakfast with him, go to his office, and he is pushing. We're as close as we've ever been in Terrebonne Parish, and Lafourche of getting $3 billion with a B for the Moganda to the Gulf levee system and floodgates. So it's just not a matter of running the parish. It's important, and you got to know how to do it. But it's all the other things that come along with it. It's a full-time job, and you know, as you can see when a hurricane comes in there, you better understand your levee system. You better understand your water system, your hydrology of Terrebonne Parish, and in the Corps. Even though the Corps is very aggravating, but they've gotten better with this new General Kaiser, and then you've got a new Colonel Murphy in New Orleans, in the New Orleans district. You've got to know how to work with all these people. Thank you.
The next question for the candidates will first go to Mr. Dove. Especially in consideration of our already having an African-American judge sitting on the Terrebonne judicial bench, Judge Juan Pickett, what is your position in regard to the proposed minority judgeship in Terrebonne Parish?
Well, that, as you know, that's in the court system. It just made it to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. You have a great judge in Terrebonne Parish, Juan Pickett, duly elected by the people. Even though he was unopposed, he was still elected. What that is all about is about 5 sub-districts. There's something that's false on there is the talk that it's just about a minority sub-district. It's about 5 sub-districts. In other words, what the plan is to dilute your vote. And by doing that, you can only vote, you got to vote for a judge in a district like you vote for your councilman or your school board member. But the same judge you're voting for may not judge you if you have a civil or criminal problem. So, you know, I believe in an at-large election system. I supported Judge Juan Pickett. I believe in electing the man that is qualified, and he is more than qualified. When you run unopposed in any election, it's because people don't believe they can beat you. And when, you know, you've got a couple of hundred lawyers in Terrebonne Parish, and I guarantee if any of them thought they could beat Juan Pickett, they would have. We have a great lawyer. I am not for the 5 sub-districts in Terrebonne Parish to where you don't even get to vote for the judge that you have to go stand before that could direct which way your life goes. So this is, it's you know, for whatever we think now, it's pretty well out the picture. It's in the Fifth Circuit, and it will be judged accordingly, and that's what will come out of it, and I'll abide by whatever the courts come out with on the 5 sub-districts in Terrebonne Parish. Thank you.
Mr. McCormick, same question to you.
Well, like you said, it's in the courts, the court's decision, you know. And if the courts decide it, when in Terrebonne Parish, we're going to adhere to the spirit of the letter of the law. All right? When it comes to equal representation, as laid down by the Voting Rights Act in 1964. Terrebonne Parish is a melting pot, and it should be represented that way.
Mr. McCormick, what criteria would you use for the selection of a legal defense team?
Well, I would have to look at their histories, you know, what kind of cases they've worked on, you know, their background. You know, I'm not too versed in that aspect, so I would have to take a long look and look at each different candidate, you know, that I would be looking at to come up with the defense team, and then I would hire the best one I believe that's for the job.
Mr. Dove, the same question?
Yes. Well, we have a great legal team. We have about 7 attorneys that we use. You know, Julius Hebert is our parish attorney. I appoint, and the council ratifies. Every year that comes up, every year the council has unanimously ratified them. As far as I know, I believe it was unanimous. I don't believe there was any dissent. Mr. Hebert and his team has saved over $1.5 million, put it back into the pockets of Terrebonne Parish. When we took over Terrebonne Parish, we inherited 80 lawsuits and workers' comp cases that most of them we've got rid of on summary judgment, or we settled them next to nothing, very, 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 very cheap. You know, the parish is a magnet for lawsuits. Somebody slips on a manhole cover, they're suing you. You want attorneys that's going to go in there and represent the parish, know when to get rid of it, know when to go for summary judgment. And, you know, we've been very successful on it. We have, you know, we inherited Hollywood Road with a lot of lawsuits. Not only Hollywood Road did we inherit the construction, which has gone astray. I got in there, met with the contractors, and we threatened to go against their performance bond if they didn't start having night crews and finish Hollywood Road up right when I got in. It was started by the previous administration. And our attorneys were there every step of the way. We had Parkwood properties that had stayed dormant, where the parish put up $3 million in federal money that if we don't finish it, we've got to put that $3 million back, which the legal team handled. And I may say we've got it approved. They've got 3 houses up on it, and it's low income homes. That is, it was funded by HUD. But if you don't build these homes, you got to give HUD back that $3 million. But the legal team got with the contractors. We forced their hand and had them finish. And it was it was a great team effort. Shell Oil, Mr. Vincent DeGate does a lot of our land work and a lot of our other work. And Vincent DeGate worked with Shell for a year and a half. I worked with them, and they donated 4,139 acres, which will be retention for the one-way system, which is about 1/3 of all Terrebonne Parish west of the intercoastal. And I picked Vince on that because he's a good attorney. All attorneys I pick that I've chosen, I know them, and I know what kind of quality work they do. Thank you.
Mr. Dove, a few years ago, both Lafourche and Terrebonne had discussed emphasizing the 2 parishes as excellent retirement locations, especially considering the low crime and relatively inexpensive land available. What would be your plans, if any, on that subject, and precisely how would you propose to promote Terrebonne in that manner?
Well, the first thing we got to do is get down the cost of building homes. You have to start that by flood insurance. You know, flood insurance is because the further south you go, the more economical the homes are to buy, but the flood insurance is out of sight. But we've been working with FEMA from day one when I got in, because I was working with them in the legislature, and we do have them recognizing Morganza, so that's going to help us out. I believe this is a great retirement community, and we have to work hard at it to get people in here, but you got to get the houses to where they can afford it. You have to have walking parks. You have to have something that they can exercise and they can work, and where they come here to enjoy themselves with different recreation. And you've got the Wildlife Museum, and when you get back to downtown, it's wonderful to go downtown and get coffee. And we've got to work at that. I think Terrebonne's a great place for retirement, but it needs a lot of work. Thank you.
Mr. McCormick, do you need me to repeat the question?
I agree the housing is expensive here in Terrebonne Parish. I'm just going to use some of the houses that I was looking at when I was knocking on doors in the area, and local area communities and everything. I was looking at the new housing development that they're doing right there off of East Street. I mean, some of the prices they're asking for that, it's very small houses, outrageous. So housing does have to go down if we want to attract the retirees. More recreation also, dog parks, a lot of the elderly, a lot of the retirees, heck, a lot of people in Terrebonne Parish have pets. And we could add some dog parks to the area and add some pet waste management stations to the already existing walking tracks that we have. I'd also like to see about adding docks to our local bayous and lakes for kayaking. I mean, those are lifelong activities that anybody can enjoy, and to give those retirees those opportunities to do here, not only to help with their lifelong exercise, but also to help promote our area, our culture. What's more beautiful than paddling a kayak down the bayou? you know, and observing our wildlife. You know, those are some things that we can do to help attract those people to this area.
Mr. McCormick, the next question will go to you first. What will make people want to live and spend their money in Houma Terrebonne? Over the next 5 to 10 years, how will we make it a more desirable location?
Like I had said earlier, cutting the cost of living down with housing. I do believe the completion of the sport complex is also going to help, you know, attract more people down here. I try to invest more and more on tourism. You know, I've traveled all over the country with my family during the summers, just hiking. And every time I mention to somebody we're from South Louisiana, they want to know about the bayous. They want to know how it is with the wildlife and the fishing. And I've been up in North Dakota and into Canada, and they know about the fishing and coquetry. I mean, we need to promote that. You know, that's one of the key things that we need to have down here is to push that and really push our tourism in the bayous.
Mr. Dove, if you'd like to go ahead and answer that question as well.
Okay, thank you. Well, you know, Terrebonne Parish, I grew up hunting, fishing, the waterways in Terrebonne Parish. There's nothing more beautiful than moss and cypress trees. But what big problem I saw when I got elected? Litter. We've got a litter program second to none. I've worked with the Sheriff Jerry Lawpenter. We now fund 20 prisoners 52 weeks a year, 40 hours a week to do nothing but pick up litter or whatever else we need them for other services. And we have a litter program. We have 2 trucks that goes around Terrebonne Parish picking up litter. A good example is Boudreaux Canal. It was so littered up, we're putting dumpsters there. So litter is one way you start with it. Roads. Our roads are deplorable. There's 26 bridges that need replacing in Terrebonne Parish. I'm doing 8. In 2014, now remember, I took office in 2016. There was 26 bridges that were downgraded by DOT with Baton Rouge. Nothing was done about it. We're doing 8 now. We've already finished 2. We're going to do 10, and we've got to fix our bridges. But the roads, when I took office, they had $500,000 for panel replacements and asphalt and curbing. 2 years ago, we moved that to $1.3 million that we're doing constant panel changes. You go to any subdivision, we're doing panel changes to beautify it. We're trying to trim trees. We're trying to do right-of-ways, besides digging ditches for drainage and things that we need. But you know, if you want people to stay here, you have to beautify it. You have to come in there. You have to protect them with a levee system and floodgates. To me, that's second to none, because we have a redundant system. If our system is over top, we have another set of levees that comes into play. And then you got to have the jobs for the kids. You know, we've been working on jobs. Like I said, we worked with Rouse's. We worked with many industries. Not long ago, K&B wanted to go with industrial tax exemption. We worked with them to make sure they get it. Industrial tax exemptions are good. Even though you give them a property break for 5 years, but they go build millions of dollars worth of properties on there, and then after 5 years, or in some cases, the state does 10, then you start getting taxes there, but it creates jobs. It makes businesses want to come. So even though it may look like you're giving some away, you're not giving anything away you wouldn't have had anyway. So, I mean, you know, we've got to get jobs. We've got to get businesses. I noticed the rental buildings in town are starting to fill up again. So we've got some activity. We've got some drilling on the shelf. Inland drilling is going to be tough for a long time because of the coastal lawsuits. So you know that's got to be worked on.
Your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dove, how will you support and grow the energy industry in Terrebonne Parish?
Well, I have from day one that I've gotten here. I've been a product of the energy and oil company all my adult life. I grew up, my father worked for the energy industry. And that's what we do every day. We work with industry. I've met with everyone from Shell Oil to BP, the president of BP, and I've met with Chevron, Apache, Conoco, Apache. Conoco owns 750,000 acres in Terrebonne Parish. Apache owns about 280,000 acres. And Mid-Continental Oil and Gas, owns about, I think, 130,000 acres. So they are our corporate citizens. Besides oil and gas, they're here to stay. Shell Oil, we met with Shell Oil. They're building a 15,000 square foot building for their pipeline division. Pipeline division is really a whole different type of business. Shell is also building a 100,000 square foot building on the east side for their riser pipes offshore. So they do have some drilling programs coming up. And we met with I know these presidents, I know these vice presidents of these companies and these operations guys, and they like Terrebonne, they feel safe in Terrebonne. They're starting to move into Terrebonne Parish. Now, we've lost a lot of jobs. We've got a lot of catching up to do. But, I mean, we're going on almost 5 years of a slowdown. And, I own my own oil field business, and my daughters and my wife and them run. And, we've got a long way to come back. We'll never get back to what we were. I mean, we're fooling ourselves if we do. But Terrebonne, I mean, you can see this area out here, how much has been developed by Jake Giardina and his group. And there's more and more to come. You're going to see a lot of things opening up now that Rouse's is moving into the Weatherford building. You're going to see they got a trucking company wants to move in and start selling the large 18-wheelers, because there'll be a lot of trucking in and out of here, but it's only Highway 90 to the facility. So from day one, I've never stopped getting industry in, and I will not stop getting industry in the Terrebonne Parish. Oil and gas is our life. Shrimp, oysters, crabs is our way of life and in a living for a lot of our people in Terrebonne Parish. That's why I built lock systems in Petit Caillou and Bayou Terrebonne, so they can come and go fishing. Right now, if there's a south wind with a high tide, they can't leave with the gates they have now. When we finish the lock system, they will come and go as they please, and salt water will not enter into the system. Thank you.
Mr. McCormick, the same question. How will you support and grow the energy industry in Terrebonne Parish?
Well, I believe a better trained workforce is going to help our energy industry in Terrebonne Parish. I would also like to incentivize our energy industry to hire local, to keep that economic dollar in the parish. I would also like to make Terrebonne Parish, the whole parish, an opportunity zone. That way there's other avenues and there's other things that we can offer to the energy industry that would help attract them to our area. Another way of looking at it is I would like to try to diversify some of those industries. One idea I have would be windmills, not having a wind plant per se, but by building them, manufacturing those blades, manufacturing those turbines and those engines here. Terrebonne Parish has a wealth of workers and companies that can do those jobs. And that way, when our petroleum industry is suffering, we'll still have that industry that we can lean on.
Mr. McCormick, how do you plan to keep lawsuits against the energy industry, one of the parish's largest employers, out of Terrebonne?
Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I don't know everything. Don't tell my wife that. She's behind you, okay? But that's one of the things that I'm going to have to look into. That's one of the things when I was preparing for this I didn't think about. I'm going to be honest. I'll be brutally honest, whether it hurts me or not. That's one of the things I need to look into, and I guarantee you at the next forum, I will have the answer for that one.
Mr. Dove?
Well, I've worked with, I saw this situation started about 9 years ago when I was chairman of Natural Resources, and of course, coastal erosion was caused in the 20s when you leveed off the Mississippi River and you stopped the sediments and the fresh water from coming down our tributaries and our estuaries, therefore causing erosion. Then came a group of attorneys who started working the parishes to try to get them to sue and and to me, it's nothing but a quick money grab. And there's no discovery done. Let's just go out and sue oil companies because they're the deep pocket. Forget the timber companies. Forget all other industry that you know, a little bit of, you know, your timber company, when you see St. Louis Canal and Hanson Canal, these are all timber companies that dug that. The state of Louisiana dug thousands of miles of canals throughout here. We as duck hunters dug thousands of miles of trenances. You know, people caused the people living in South Louisiana was not general on the marshes, but it was caused by the Mississippi River. And I will fight any lawsuits because Terrebonne Parish, the parish president and the council are the ones who should control any and all civil suits at Terrebonne Parish. It's statutorily, it's constitutionally, but you know, that is our industry. There's 6 parishes suing right now. They are going to be 5, 6, 7, 8 years. They haven't even got a court date yet. And it's certain people want to run up there and start suing oil companies. That's not the way to go in and ruin our economy. They are corporate citizens, no different than K&B Machine Shop, no different than our own Copeland's over there. That's all Copeland. You know, all companies are corporate citizens. They employ a lot of our people. The court system, the lawsuits that's going on right now from Jefferson, but St. Bernard, Plaquemines, Vermilion are going to work its way through the system. Lafourche did not sue, Terrebonne did not sue, St. Mary did not sue, and New Iberia did not sue. And it's going to work its way through its system. But how dare a group of people from Baton Rouge start coming down here and say, you need to sue the oil companies? I'm yet to see any discovery on it. So as you can tell, I'm not for suing oil companies, but I am. We will watch them as they go through the court systems and protect the economy of Terrebonne Parish. Thank you.
Candidates, I'd like to thank you for coming out tonight. That concludes the questions that were submitted. We are a little early. I'd like to extend to you the opportunity, each of 5 minutes for closing comments. We'll start with Mr. McCormick. As you went first, Mr. Dove will have the last round of closing comments. Mr. McCormick, the floor is yours for 5 minutes, whatever you'd like to speak about.
All right, once again, I'd like to thank the Houma Terrebonne Chamber of Commerce, Dr. Strickland, and everybody here at Fletcher Technical Community College for hosting this event tonight. How blessed are we to live in a country where the 2 candidates can sit here and talk about different ideas that could help benefit the community that we both love and live in. I'm here for the simple reason of trying to bring jobs and opportunities back to our children and grandchildren. Having a vibrant economy can solve all of Terrebonne Parish's problems. I will work tirelessly every day to diversify and grow our economy, which means more jobs for our people, more customers for our businesses, more students for our schools, better roads, better drainage, and a stronger hurricane protection system. Ladies and gentlemen, this election is about jobs. I will vote for David McCormick as a vote for a stronger economy in Terrebonne Parish. And on October 12th, I'm humbly asking for your vote. Candidate number 94, David McCormick.
Mr. Dove, 5 minutes.
Well, you know, I served in Baton Rouge as chairman of Natural Resources, which is also over Wildlife and Fisheries and Environment, which is oversight of DEQ. So I'm very familiar with environmental rules and regulations, along with the shrimping and crabbing industry and oyster industry. And you know, I'm very familiar with Washington D.C., the Corps of Engineers. When I stepped in this position, it's not time for a learning curve on this. We have to lift levees. We have to protect ourselves. We have $3 billion that we are trying to get in Washington, D.C. It's not, you don't want to go up there and let someone go learn how to do that, because you don't learn how to do it. You either know it or you don't. I spent years doing it. I brought industry into Terrebonne Parish. I've done everything I can to create jobs. When I took over Terrebonne Parish, Like I said, the economy was spiraling. It wasn't nobody's fault. We had to cut 23%, and I cut 23%. We cut 23%, which was $10 million a year. I've cut $40 million off the budget of Terrebonne Parish, so the people did not have to come up with any more money. I'm a no tax conservative, and I will not tax the people of Terrebonne Parish. We have a power plant that was done in 2013 before I got in office, costing us $3.8 million a year. I will not raise the utility rates. The Terrebonne Parish, we will absorb that $3.8 million, and we have absorbed it, and we will continue to absorb it. We have done everything in Terrebonne Parish. I have challenged anyone who wanted to come against our economy through coastal lawsuits, one of the questions you all ask, and I will protect Terrebonne Parish. That is our economy, but we will follow these oil companies and these plaintiffs through the court system, and we are presently reviewing over 8,500 coastal use permits. That's what's supposed to be done right now. Statutorily, you're supposed to be reviewing coastal use permits because the parish is approved by the state to issue coastal use permits, which is used in drilling programs. And we're doing that. We were doing that from day one, and I've done that within our legal budget. We have not budgeted more money to make sure that we statutorily follow coastal use permits. Like I said, I was one of the ones that funded Fletcher to bring Fletcher here. We're working with Dr. Christine Strickland. The Terrebonne Parish didn't hesitate to put $150,000 up for the Careers Building, which I understand is very close right now, which is a $5 million building to help placement of our children. Our children is the most important thing we have in Terrebonne Parish. The recreation, I will complete the sportsplex. We will find the money, we will complete it, and we have been completing it. I mean, there's, like I said, there's avenues of selling property that the rec district doesn't need, and we could raise the monies. But this is a great place to live. I've lived here all my life. My grandpa, grandma, my great-grandpa, grandma, my mother's fathers are buried here. I have a son buried here, and I will always protect Terrebonne Parish. I will. I have my own business, so I don't do this for the money or nothing. I have my own business that I've been having since 1980. And we have to work together. We're not all perfect, but me and the council have accomplished a lot. We have $70 million worth of construction, ladies and gentlemen, going on right now. A pump station off the Chacahula Basin, which no one has ever even tried to pump out the Chacahula Basin. It's going to pump 2 million. It's going to pump 1 million gallons every 2 minutes and 15 seconds. It'll be completed in 4 months. That the people of not only Bob Black, but the lakes, Sugarwood, Gibson, Chacahula, what have you, will be drained. We have a great parish here, and I ask for your vote on October the 12th. I've done everything I can do as a parish president, and we're going to move it forward. I have a great council that I've been working with, and with that, I want to just say God bless Terrebonne, the United States of America, and especially our veterans. Thank you all very much. And panel, thank you all for some great questions, and on the Houma Chamber of Commerce for putting this on, and I want to thank my wife for putting up with me being parish president all these years. Thank you, Mona. And also being in the state legislature. So we have a lot of things in Terrebonne Parish, and we will move Terrebonne Parish forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dove, Mr. McCormick.
All right, there you have it from Fletcher Technical College.
Candidates, thank you for
The
participating
candidates
in the forum.
shaking hands.
Dr. Strickland, Dr. Kloon, Mr. Urash, thank you for volunteering your time tonight. I'd like to thank the Chamber staff, our Board of Directors
Also
for their
want to thank
participation in the forum.
The Chamber of
Especially thank
Commerce,
you, Dr.
Houma Terrebonne. I want to
Dr.
thank the
Strickland for allowing us,
panelists and
use
the
of
audience
your
that showed up tonight.
facility and setup.
And
The
we
Houma
will now
Terrebonne Chamber of Commerce would like to
kick
thank
it back
everyone for
to
attending this forum.
our regular
Please join us
program. I
tomorrow
want to
night
thank
for our
Jason,
forum
Sarah, and you on
featuring Senate
camera.
District 20 race,
I want to
same
thank
time, same
Jake
place.
Bazeron
Have a good night. And be
on our
careful.
second camera,
Next destination.
and certainly the candidates.